Hi, everyone. Welcome to Film Vets. I'm your host, Paul Dixon, and with me is my co-host,
Dan Young.
Dan, we're doing another podcast today because I can't figure out technology. Yay! I was hoping for the claps again. Oh, well.
Yeah, but you couldn't figure out how to record, so, you know.
Yeah, perfect. So today, since the embargo seems to be lifting for the new Flash movie, I wanted to talk about that because I have seen the movie. Granted, I haven't seen the final version or the version I think that most people have seen with the new ending, but I've seen a version, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but I am going to talk about why I think this movie works in many ways, and I'm going to see if Dan would go out to see it if I get him interested, you know?
So you basically stumbled into, convince Dan to go see something. That's really what we're doing.
That's our new segment.
I'm sure there's
convince Dan. I think we should do it. So I don't know if you know the behind the scenes stuff, but we're going to go over that right now. So The Flash is a movie that's been in production for a long time. In fact, fun fact, the movie was in production at the start right before the Flash TV series started. And now it's coming out.
What?
Yeah, it's coming out after the Flash series ended. So it's insane. Look it up. I swear to God. So it's a big deal on that level alone. Also, this is a potential reboot of the DC universe since James Gunn's taking over. This is directed by Andy Muschietti, and he is the director of It and It Chapter 2. And he's also supposedly rumored, it's pretty much confirmed, but they can't say, that he'll be directing the Brave and the Bold movie with Batman and Robin. So, and after seeing this movie, I can totally see why the way he handles two different Batmen from two different universes is brilliant. I think this is, I wouldn't say it's the best I've seen Ben Affleck as Batman, but it's up there. And Michael Keaton is Michael Keaton. He's amazing. So this is a big deal, and there's a bit of controversy with a certain actor, Ezra Miller. They are, I try to stick with the facts of the film. I don't want to go too far into what they've done or what has happened to them in the past, which is ironic because this is a movie about the future and blah, 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 whatever. But I really hope that things are working out where they get the help they needed and that that nobody has been harmed or anything of that nature. I do have to say he was great. He plays two different Barrys. I'm sorry, they play two different Barrys, and they are great. They're fun to watch. It's going to be a little hard to talk about this movie without spoiling things, but I'm gonna give it a fair shake, as Dan says, and I promise not to spoil any big things. But my general consensus is this is not the greatest comic book movie ever made, which has been said by some people behind the scenes in the industry. I just don't agree with that. I think
when people say something like that, it's them trying to almost counterbalance something else that they think is going to happen that is going to negatively impact. So you're looking at, Ezra Miller, and maybe they're just trying to like gin it up a little bit more, because remember, yes, filmmaking is art, and art is subjective, but profits are not,
Yeah.
And that's really what that's coming down to. So I don't believe a lot of what other people will come around and say about a movie, especially if they're associated with it in some form. Now, if it's another reviewer or, a critic, let's face it, I always do the opposite of what a critic say anyways. But if it's another reviewer, I I don't know. It's always going to be a personal taste. You know,
You
that's
can't.
just my thing on you know, the greatest comic book movie ever made. No, calm down. Go take a
Yeah.
cold shower.
Well, I would say to be honest, one of the greatest. I mean, personally, I still say The Dark Knight is my number one comic book film of all time right now. But a close second would be Into the Spider-Verse, or sorry, Across the Spider-Verse, which just released last week and has made a ton of money. Coming off the heels of that into The Flash, it's almost like, and I actually saw The Flash before Spider-Man, but comparing the two, you have to really realize that the Flash is a great film, but when it's compared to Spider-Verse, I have to go with Spider-Verse. Now, the thing is, I wouldn't say this film is bad in general, though. The special effects are a little iffy, but I can get past that if the story is really great, and the story's really solid in this. It's got a real good heart. The thing that elevates everything really is Barry Allen's story. And if you're familiar with the comics, or you've read Flashpoint, or you know anything about the way Barry goes about time travel, you're going to understand where things go in the movie. It's not going to be a huge surprise. But for people that haven't, it's genuinely heartfelt, I have to say. And I felt that. And I think people are going to enjoy it overall. And I don't think it's going to be the best movie ever. I don't even think it's the best DC movie ever, but I think it's up there. I would say top 5 for sure. So, and if you're interested to see, what cameos come up, I mean, they're definitely worth it. I mean, besides the fact Michael Keaton's in the movie, we know that, and we know, Ben Affleck's coming back.
That
as
alone
Batman.
might be, but I mean,
Exactly.
both Batman might just be worth it alone. To see Michael Keaton back, I mean, that guy has been Batman since the 80s. I mean, come on.
I mean, you're not wrong. And I think, I was talking to my mother about it, and she has no idea about the DC movies. She doesn't care, but she knows about Michael Keaton as Batman. To her, there is no other Batman. Michael Keaton is Batman. And she's excited about this. So that says something to me, that there's going to be people out there that they don't care about the DC universe. They don't read the comics. But they have nostalgia for Michael Keaton as Batman. And that's going to pull some people into the theater to see this. So I think it's going to do pretty well. All things considered, this could have been a big disaster of a film. I mean, with the behind the scenes drama and the delays and the constant going back and forth with things, and the fact that DC Universe is getting rebooted in general, this could have been much, much worse. And it's not. It's an actually solid film that's put together well. And I give credit to Andy Muschietti. He is obviously a talented man, and I'm so happy he's going to be on The Brave and the Bold, if that's true, because that's a perfect fit for that. Because you have a lot of the action, you have a lot of the heart, and you have this understanding of elevating the characters beyond just, they're realistic, but they're also superheroes when it comes down to it. And he goes that extra mile in this. Like, there's an elevation of almost comic book escapades for the characters, as opposed to, say, you go to Robert Pattinson's The Batman, which is more realistic and grounded. This feels more like something out of the comics.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So you saw The Flash, and something that I've noticed with DC, especially, lately now take the newer Suicide Squad and put that aside. The first one doesn't exist. So just Suicide Squad, put that aside, because that's James Gunn being James Gunn, like him being able to just pull from random places and just do what he does. aside from that, when you look at everything else that DC makes, it is so grimdark. It's just got this undertone of gritty desperation. You know, it's almost like, you know, watching the class clown become an alcoholic. Like it's just, it sucks. You know, like what does this movie pull back from the edge a little bit? Or is it still just really grimdark? Because there's only one franchise to me that can pull grimdark off.
I'm sorry. I'm imagining a class clown becoming a drunk, and all I think about is the Jeffrey Dahmer story where he all the kids are like, "Oh, he's really funny," and yeah, he turns out to be Jeffrey Dahmer. You know, so I'm just. What is your question, Dan? I'm still trying to figure that out.
I asked it. You know what? Yes, I did. I asked, does this movie pull back from that a little bit?
It pulls back from being comedic?
I mean, I fully expect that, but no. Does it pull back from just like the tragic, dark overtone that DC keeps trying to like put a filter over everything?
Yeah. No, it definitely doesn't feel like they are. So with the Zack Snyder films, that was a big problem. There was a lack of humor a lot of the time, and there was a lack of. It was just so dark. It was so Batman v Superman was just dark, and everything was serious, and it was just boring. But then you can go in the opposite direction, where you take something like Suicide Squad, the first one, and you go too far in the other direction, and it's chaos, and there was no, and to be fair, the director did not have that vision in mind. Warner Brothers just put it together very choppily, and there's a whole BS thing about that. So when it comes to this movie, it feels like a vision that was thought out well, and one, I wouldn't say Manny Muschietti was the only person that worked on this movie, obviously, but you could tell he helmed it well. You could tell that there were great comedic moments, and they landed most of the time. And I mean, it was funny, but when the parts get very dark, and it does get dark. Don't get me wrong. It feels earned. It feels like, okay,
it's not just senseless despair.
Right. So you have someone like Barry doing these things like, I can change everything. I can save the world. And Batman's like, you could also destroy everything. And that's played out in different ways. And it's very fun to watch and very sad. And you realize Barry is, something interesting I thought was Barry is in the last few movies, he's been a very comedic character, and it seems like a lot of people are kind of annoyed with him a little. They're like, oh, he's the Joker, the guy joking all the time on the team, and he gets to see a version of himself that is even worse than the way he is, and he's like, oh my God, I understand what people are talking about now. And it's just
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. So you get a more mature Flash in this, more so than I thought he would be, and it's just handled so well. And I give full credit to both Ezra Miller and Andy Muschietti. They get the character, and I cannot stress how fucking awesome Michael Keaton is in this film. Other than that,
he's awesome when he goes to check his mail. I mean, you're just stating obvious statements.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Let's face it. If I like to think he's just like Sunday lounging around Beetlejuice. Like he just picks which character he wants to be. His wife must never have a dull moment.
Who's he married to?
Diane Keaton.
No.
Oh, who's he married to?
I don't know. It can't be Diane Keaton, really? Who? Hold on. I'm going to Google who is Michael Keaton married to? Michael Keaton's wife.
Shut up.
Come on, Google, tell me. Okay, so her name is Caroline McWilliams.
McWilliams.
But I think they're divorced. They divorced in 1990. They were married from 82 to 90. I don't think he's married to anybody.
Diane Keaton is her birth name's Diana Hall. She changed her last name to her mother's maiden name.
Oh. Well, he is in a relationship, but it's a very private one. He's got a girlfriend named Marnie Turner. I don't know why we're looking into gossip stuff. I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, you know what? It's because I never knew, and bravo to him for keeping it really private. Like, you keep that locked up. Like, that's seriously, I applaud him for that. You gotta draw a line in that world.
He handles it very well. I think there's a lot of actors actually that do that well. Like, was it somebody that you never see them together, or you see snippets of them dating people, but it's like Pedro Pascal. I have no idea who he's seeing, and I don't care. I love the actor. I love him as a person, and it's just interesting it's just interesting to me. I'm like, how did they do that? And I see other actors who are like, this is like older, but Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, you see them everywhere, and they're always together, and you know that they're together.
To me, it almost feels like the scandal is the relationship, and it just their identity is the relationship, and the paparazzi wants to shove everything about their life out in the open. So when it does, have a bump in the road, it's not just a bump in the road. It turns into a nuclear warhead, and the fallout is horrible, and it just makes it so much worse for the actor, for both of them. And it's just, I've always been an advocate for, I don't care what the actor does behind closed doors, as long as, they're not, and I'm going to invoke Jeffrey Dahmer, hey, as long as they're not a monster, I don't care. If they are, then, hey, you go away.
Is that your dog?
Yep. So as long as they're not a demon, behind closed doors, I don't care.
Yeah. And I guess to summarize, good job, Michael Keaton. We're rooting for you.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. So going back to the movie, that was a good tangent. Good job. I highly recommend seeing the film at least once. I would love to hear what people think about it. I want to see what you think about it, Dan. And I want you to tell me, and we can do a spoiler review later on if you go see this movie within the next week. I'm going to see it a second time on opening day, and I am going to the Alamo Drafthouse in LA, downtown, where they kick people out for using their phone or talking.
That's awesome.
Beautiful. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what people think about this. Again, not the greatest superhero movie ever made, but solid. Really fun. I think most people, especially general audiences, are going to enjoy this.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Just a fun fact. Yeah. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, right?
I do.
Yeah. Do you know who else is originally from Pennsylvania?
Michael Keaton.
Yes, sir. just west of Pittsburgh.
So does that mean you like to get nuts?
Of course, always. Come on.
Also, before we go, I wanted to thank Veterans Media Entertainment, VME, for giving me the opportunity to go see this film, because they were giving tickets to veterans to see the film, and I got lucky. It was 30 free tickets, and they push veterans to the front to get in. And I got a pretty great seat. So I'm actually going to see the Transformers Rise of the Beast tonight. Hopefully, if I feel like it.
Oh man. Yeah, you should go. You should go see it. I am hearing good things about that one, and it's kind of piggybacking off of Bumblebee, which is kind of the Transformers reboot from the Michael Bay explosion.
Well, I thought Bumblebee was the best Transformers movie. So
Well, yeah, because
if it's any,
it wasn't part of that whole mess.
yeah, I feel like if they stick the landing, that this could be another great one. Because I just don't
It's
like
Beast
most of the
Wars.
Transformers.
That's
Yeah,
a whole other like conversation though.
yeah. But anyways, thank you again so much for everyone listening, and thank you for your time, and veterans for your service. And Dan, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll eventually figure out this whole camera thing. But if you're watching or listening on YouTube, just subscribe. Keep coming back. We've got some other stuff lined up.
Hell yeah!
And thank y'all.
Thank
you, Paul.
Oh,
for
thanks, Mike.
watching The Flash.
My pleasure. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
All right. Bye.